Vegan diets are often presented as the best diet for our health, the environment, and animal welfare. But in my research as a holistic nutritionist, I discovered some surprising truths.
I feel like I could go vegan, doing myself, the animals, and the whole world a favor.
I commend everyone who doesn't want to take a life to support their own.
That this is the ethical way to eat.
People saying that meat is not good for you.
I believed that it was the healthiest.
Just tried it.
In the beginning, I felt phenomenal.
And then it became a 12-year experiment.
I was always trying to find the right way of eating vegan that was going to give me that effortless energy.
Honestly, it was the sickest time of my life.
My health really fell apart.
Exhausted all the time, crying, shaky, hungry, couldn't figure out why.
Was exhausted, I was obsessed with food.
Seeing, okay, testosterone's dipping.
My period stopped.
Low self-esteem, no energy.
My illness, my mental health, all of that I struggled with and that I always thought I was broken, actually maybe my diet was wrong.
Now, I appreciate anyone who eats thoughtfully, and I respect and share many of the values and intentions of those who adopt or consider vegan diets. I was even a pescatarian at one point in my life. But today, we'll explore some of the research I uncovered regarding the often overlooked health consequences of vegan diets so you can make an informed decision about what is right for you. It's time to rethink meat and the truth about vegan diets.
Plant-based lifestyle.
Plant-based diets for health, compassion, and conservation of the environment.
But ultimately, on a vegan diet,
It's just very difficult to get the right nutrients.
There are many reasons people go vegan and several misunderstandings about the diet. So first, let's explore 4 common beliefs about vegan diets that I was surprised aren't necessarily true. Number 1, everyone who cares about their health and the environment is vegan. I spoke with the author of The Vegetarian Myth, Lierre Keith, about one of the main reasons most people go vegan.
They meet somebody who's already doing it and they are convinced. So all this information is handed over and it seems really compelling. And indeed, if you care about animals or you care about the planet, they have some good arguments and it seems to make sense.
Today, with celebrities and entrepreneurs touting the benefits of vegan diets, it can start to feel like everyone is trying it. But the truth is, approximately only 1/2% of adults in the United States self-identify as vegan, and most people abandon the diet after 3 months. It's also been estimated that 84% of those who try veganism end up reverting to eating animal foods in some capacity, and there are 5 times more former vegetarians and vegans than current ones. In other words, a small fraction of the population is vegan, especially long-term. Number 2, the vegan diet is better for the environment. I found that this common belief is not always accurate for 3 important reasons. First, many of the models that suggest vegan diets are more eco-friendly use calories rather than nutrients as a basis for comparison. Author of The Great Plant-Based Con, Jane Buxton, talks about why this is an issue.
The value of a food product is not captured by its calories or its grams. So there have been a number of studies that showed that when you start to factor in the nutrient quality of animal-sourced foods, their impact in GHG terms per nutrient is actually similar to, and in some cases better than, plants.
Second, a 2017 analysis revealed that if all 300 million Americans went vegan, it would result in only a 2.6% reduction in greenhouse gases and widespread nutrient deficiencies. According to professor and air quality extension specialist Dr. Frank Mitlerner,
it's a smokescreen. You have to go vegan for 2 years to offset one single transatlantic flight per passenger.
Third, not all plant agriculture is sustainable. Much of the soy, corn, and wheat in vegan products are grown in monocultures treated with pesticides and other harmful chemicals. Not to mention, many fruits and vegetables are imported. No diet grown in monocultures sprayed with chemicals and flown thousands of miles to get to your plate is a planet-friendly diet. And, as we will soon learn in an upcoming video, many of the models suggesting plant foods result in fewer greenhouse gases use fossil fuel-dependent feedlot beef as a comparison rather than other types of beef production that can sequester carbon and improve environmental health. Next, number 3, a vegan diet prevents animal death.
So PETA was handing out flyers. They were probably showing videos and seeing things about the horrendous ways animals were treated in factory farms. I went vegan overnight.
If you are considering being a vegan, You are on the right track because those are the correct values. So anything that questions human hubris, animal suffering, the state that the planet is in, those are absolutely the right questions. The problem is what you're lacking is information.
Now, this is a sentiment we can all understand, but what most people don't realize is that eating only plants doesn't always result in less death. A 2018 analysis, for example, estimated that between 63 and 127 million field deaths per year in the United States are due to plant-based agriculture. And just for perspective, approximately 40 million cattle and 120 million pigs are harvested each year in the United States. A second analysis by Professor Mike Archer also revealed that producing wheat and other grains for vegetarian diets results in at least 25 times more sentient animals being killed per kilogram of usable protein, more environmental damage, and a great deal more animal cruelty. New York Times bestselling author and organic farmer Diana Rogers describes how these deaths occur.
In order to make a field to grow just one thing, you have to kill everything that was there before, the grass, the forest, all the animals that live there. And then you're killing the soil by plowing it up to plant just one crop, which is extremely unnatural in nature and highly susceptible to insects and other diseases. There's tons of chemicals, pesticides sprayed on the crops, killing insects, which then, no food for birds. We've got pesticide runoff into rivers, which is killing fish. And then the bears have no fish to eat. I mean, the downstream effects of extractive chemical agriculture, annihilating entire ecosystems, creates much more death than, one cow raised in a beautiful grass-fed system. But the reality is there is no death solution.
And just for the record, I do not endorse or condone the inhumane conditions in factory farms. The way we raise animals needs to change, which is one of the main reasons we created this series. That brings us to the fourth and final misconception: you can easily get all necessary nutrients from plants. Now, despite the belief that nutrients from plants and animals are interchangeable, there are many nutrients that are difficult, if not impossible, to obtain on a vegan diet. A recent paper co-authored by Dr. Lauren Cordain outlined the most common health risks that can occur via vegan diet-induced nutrient deficiencies, including depression and anxiety, hypothyroidism, sarcopenia, hair loss, dermatitis, anemia, osteoporosis, and bone fractures. Vegan-induced nutrient deficiencies can sometimes result in non-food cravings, known as pica, like they did for the wife of nutritionist and host of America's #1 podcast, Sean Stevenson.
It wasn't until my wife got pregnant, that's when everything changed. Later, she was craving meat. And one day I came home and I caught her in the bed with a bar of soap, sitting on the edge of the bed, smelling it. But I thought she was just smelling. Apparently she was tasting the soap, all right? She was just deficient in these different things and having this craving for whatever was in this soap.
Obtaining all necessary nutrients on a vegan diet is really difficult. True vitamin B12, which is important for your brain and the health of your nervous system, for example, is almost exclusively found in animal products, and it was found to be deficient in 92% of vegans versus 11% of meat eaters. Minerals can also be deficient due to the anti-nutrients found in plants.
If you look globally at the rates of deficiencies of iron and zinc, it's very strongly correlated with the ratio of plants and animals in the diet, where animal-heavy diets provide adequate iron and zinc, plant-heavy diets tend not to. A big part of it is the anti-nutrients that are present in plant foods.
For example, you would absorb approximately 0.8 milligrams of iron from beef, yet only 0.18 milligrams from spinach, in servings both containing about 3.5 milligrams of iron. And though you can obtain certain essential omega-3 fatty acids from plants, the longer chain forms like EPA and DHA, which are critical for the heart and brain, are only found in animal products, which is likely why up to 50% of vegans can be deficient. Now, the necessity of supplementation is also a concern, and functional medicine expert Dr. Chris Kresser explains why supplementation is not always foolproof.
If you're not eating any animal products, then you're going to have to supplement. But supplementation, it's tricky to get right. Most people, I would say, get it wrong. After 15 years of working with patients and being a macrobiotic vegan myself, who is highly educated and motivated to get it right, I still got it wrong and still wrecked my health.
It's also important to note that due to the complexity of the whole food matrix, supplemental nutrients don't often yield the same benefits. In fact, for certain nutrients like calcium and beta-carotene, their supplemental forms have been linked to an increased risk of disease, while their whole food forms are linked to a decreased risk. The major takeaway is this: despite popular belief, the vegan diet is not always best for the environment, the welfare of all living beings, or your health. And because the nutrient deficiencies that can result from vegan diets can manifest in unique and unexpected ways, next we'll explore several first-hand accounts of ex-vegans, beginning with the mental health issues experienced by nutrition expert Dr. Chris Masterjohn.
I had some anxiety problems since I was a teenager, but they aggravated to the point where I could no longer eat food anymore because I was so afraid it had been poisoned. I would spend 20 minutes looking for a glass that was clean enough to drink out of. And there were times where I couldn't eat anything. I remember one time that I spent 20 minutes inspecting a veggie burger wrapper, but I discovered a hole had been poked in the cellophane. I could not bring myself to eat any of this food, and so I threw it across the room at the wall.
I also spoke with holistic nutritionist Judy Cho about the link between her 12-year vegan diet and depression.
But I lost my memory. I was eventually sent to the mental ward, and they said, okay, it's clear she's suffering from a severe eating disorder. She has major depression, probably postpartum depression. I was told that I had to be separated from my son just to go to that intensive care. It was very, very heartbreaking. So I decided I will do whatever it takes in that facility so I could get better and get out fast. I stopped nursing my son. I got on antipsychotics because the antidepressants wasn't enough. Never once did they say, maybe your diet is not ideal.
Now, why can a vegan diet be so problematic for mental health? Well, the brain is a hungry organ and accounts for only 2% of our total body weight, yet requires 20% of our daily calories. The brain is also 60% fat, contains large amounts of DHA found only in animal products, and amino acids from protein are the building blocks of our neurotransmitters like serotonin that impact our mood. According to a 2018 analysis, the most important nutrients for depression prevention and treatment include many nutrients often deficient in vegan diets. Recent research has also provided evidence that avoiding meat can increase the risk of mental health issues, with a 2020 review concluding that 11 of the 18 studies found meat abstention was associated with poorer psychological health. Other studies have found not eating meat is associated with twice the risk of depression, 3 times the risk of self-harm, and twice the rate of suicide attempts. And though a vegan diet will not necessarily cause mental health issues for everyone, it can also exacerbate pre-existing symptoms.
Retrospectively, you would peg the onset of the anxiety years before I became a vegan, but there was a dramatic difference between nuisance level anxiety, psychosis level anxiety, and no anxiety.
And finally, meat-inclusive Mediterranean and ketogenic diets have shown promising results in clinical trials for improving and even reversing brain-based issues like depression, epilepsy, and Alzheimer's. A second important issue is bone and joint health. The nutrients found in animal products are so essential to bone health, the founder of muscle-centric medicine, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, warns,
we're going to see epidemics of osteoporosis like we've never seen because of the plant-based movement in young women.
A lack of calcium and vitamin D are 2 of the biggest concerns, but studies have also shown other nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin B12, vitamin A, zinc, and selenium are also important. And a recent study revealed vegans had 2 times the risk of hip fractures.
2 years in being a vegan, I started to get this terrible pain in the bottom of my spine. You know, I had a number of x-rays done, and I'm like, we don't know what's wrong with you. You're way too young to have back pain. So, you know, years go by, and this has changed my life completely. I had to drop out of college. You know, I'm just disabled with this pain.
And when a vegan and vegetarian diet was compared with a meat-inclusive Mediterranean diet in those with rheumatoid arthritis, the Mediterranean diet was far more effective for reducing pain.
Let my life be a lesson to you. If you do this long enough, the damage is permanent. Just gotta warn you. And I have met so many people like me where they wrecked their hips, their knees, their spines. The joints are tough because they don't repair. And you can bring down the inflammation, but you're not going to get that joint back.
There are also well-documented issues with hormonal, reproductive, and developmental health.
Worse, very predictably, my period stopped. I can tell you that if I had in fact wanted a baby, there's no way I could have gotten pregnant.
Deficiencies in iron and zinc and vitamin A are common in vegans and are also associated with menstrual cycle disruptions. One study compared ovulation of women aged 19 to 27, and 7 out of 9 meat eaters ovulated, while only 2 out of 9 non-meat eaters ovulated. Vegan diets can also be an issue for those who hope to become pregnant, as a recent study revealed 90% of women trying to conceive in developed countries are already nutrient deficient. Krista Orecchio, author of How to Have a Healthy Pregnancy Over 30, explains her experience working with women trying to conceive.
But then I had one person, she was nearing 40, had just gotten married, really wanted to have a child. And she was a vegan. I said, well, could you be a vegan who eats beef? Because if you really want to get pregnant, I mean, that's what your body needs. It will get you over that hump to be able to build healthy hormones again. You know, long story short, she ended up getting pregnant. That's basically what she says. She's like, I'm a vegan who eats beef.
Research has shown deficiencies in vitamin B12, iron, vitamin D, calcium, and DHA during pregnancy can increase the risk of symptoms like morbidity, low birth weight, neurological issues, fetal malformations, and the outcome of overall pregnancy. To add insult to injury, current testing methods for vitamin B12 are thought to miss many of those who are deficient, and registered dietitian Lily Nichols warns that certain nutritional recommendations for pregnancy and lactation may already be too low.
So I respect people's choices to do this, but I think we're not having a realistic conversation about the consequences. No conversation about protein quality. Even the RDA assumes that 50% of the protein intake for vegetarians is coming from animal food, such as dairy products or eggs. So you take the dairy products and eggs out of the equation in the case of a vegan diet, and suddenly your protein quality, the amount of protein that you can actually digest and absorb and utilize to run your basic biological functions, goes way down. So there actually have been some analyses suggesting that vegetarians actually should have a separate RDA that's about 20% higher.
All developing this child inside of your body, the baby's liver and the kidneys, and it's all built out of the tissue that is made of protein. It is the substance of life.
According to Lily Nichols, new research suggests current recommended levels of vitamin B12 may be 3 times too low, and even when infants appear healthy at birth, vitamin B12 deficiency can sometimes negatively impact development.
It'll use up those vitamin B12 stores by the time they're about 4 months old. And then you start seeing the consequences of vitamin B12 deficiency, which are regression in motor skills. So maybe they were making eye contact and cooing and starting to gain control of those functions. Those skills can regress. The baby that used to be interactive may just be very lethargic and fall asleep all the time. And when you look at the MRI of these infants, you'll actually see cerebral atrophy, so brain shrinkage. Even when you correct for it, about 50% of these cases have permanent neurological impairment.
Research has also shown that exclusively breastfed infants of vegan mothers are at a relatively high risk of vitamin B12 deficiency, anemia, and failure to thrive.
Please consider adding top quality animal protein, because this is your child. You only get one shot at how they gestate, and allowing all of their organs and glands to form to their full ability.
Nutrient deficiencies from vegan diets can also result in serious damage in children.
The word growing is the key, right? Bone density is grown. It's formed between the ages of 0 and 18, putting on muscle. They're growing their brains. Their brains don't stop growing until they're 25. They're building their bodies for future use, and therefore they need more nutrients. They can't afford to slack off.
I spoke with functional medicine expert Dr. Chris Kresser about why this can occur.
Kids have an even greater demand for these essential vitamins and minerals as they're growing. Later on, even if they switch from a vegan diet and start eating animal foods or supplementing with B12, it's too late. They've missed that critical developmental window, and their brain circuitry, their nervous system has not developed in the way that it should have. And no matter how much B12 they get later in life, it doesn't reverse that.
It's often believed that well-planned vegan diets with supplementation can avoid deficiency, but unfortunately, a 2021 study compared vegan, vegetarian, and omnivore children whose meals were carefully planned by a dietitian and incorporated supplements still found vegan children had lower levels of several nutrients, including protein, vitamins A and D, DHA, and cholesterol. In extreme cases, these deficiencies can even result in childhood death or irreversible damage from malnutrition.
For an adult to make an informed decision about the way they want to eat, knowing the risks and knowing what they might have to do to mitigate against those risks. But when it comes to children, it's almost criminal.
Given these serious risks, many countries, like Italy, Switzerland, Spain, Belgium, and Germany, have warned about the possible negative consequences of vegan diets. Yet despite these ill effects and warnings, in America, meat is still being taken off the menu in schools.
New York City public schools, where they already have meatless Mondays, they recently introduced vegan Fridays. And the reality of these students in New York is that 70% of these kids are low income, 10% are homeless. And so many of them are coming from food insecure homes to begin with. And so pulling out the most nutrient dense part of the meal might be the healthiest meal that they get or the only meal they get all day is actually kind of unethical.
Chris Kresser offers this advice to parents thinking of feeding their children a vegan diet.
The risk is just too high, and some of the consequences can be irreversible. It's not a risk that I think is worth taking.
Autoimmune diseases are a fourth issue I've heard many ex-vegans talk about. Josie Leader, known online as ex-plant eater, believes the vegan diet led to the development of her ulcerative colitis.
The outset, pain in my abdomen, I was starting to get low fevers, and my digestion was just very messed up. I was experiencing severe pain after eating anything. I had, ulcers in my colon. They diagnosed me with ulcerative colitis then.
Best-selling author and filmmaker Dr. Isabella Wentz also noticed the link between vegan diets and Hashimoto's, a main cause of hypothyroidism.
One of the things that was surprising to me when I first started working with people with Hashimoto's is how many people were like, I went vegan, and that's when my health issues started.
For others, like Dr. Eric Berg, digestive issues were a concern.
I think you have to be extremely healthy to be a vegan because I wasn't able to tolerate all the beans and the grains, and it just ripped me up. It was really hard to get the quality protein. It was really hard to get the quality fats. And there was just too many carbs.
And due to the often high carbohydrate intakes, blood sugar issues are another concern.
It was that low blood sugar hit, but I didn't know what that was. So all I knew was it was like really compelled to put more food in my mouth. 2-3 times a day, I was like, oh, I need to eat now. And that little shaky thing starts, and you feel like you're gonna cry or get really mad at somebody.
And finally, while there have been some successful vegan athletes, world-renowned holistic health coach Paul Chek talked about how his athletic performance suffered.
But when I was on that diet, believe me, I was starving. I lost a lot of muscle mass. Well, my training didn't change. I couldn't recover as fast. I tried to maintain my normal weights, but my joints couldn't take the loading.
And if you visit any of the vegan forums online, like the Reddit thread for ex-vegans, you will find hundreds of stories involving a myriad of health issues, including teeth problems, kidney stones, joint pain, fatigue, and even hair loss. So now that we've heard about what can happen when we eliminate animal products, let's hear about what happens when people add meat back in.
I am so desperate. I don't want to be sick for my children and not be present. So I decided to try a carnivore diet.
Eat nose to tail.
Just a little bit of oysters or fish or eggs.
I put an egg, like a raw egg, into a smoothie.
I remember the first time I ate chicken in years, and I was like crying. It tasted so good.
Carnivore with, a few other little things.
It was literally supposed to be for 2 weeks. But the thing that happened is it changed my life.
The best analogy, I guess, would be like a video game power-up. It's like...
It's like they just plugged themselves into an outlet.
Like everything started to turn on.
And felt energized with life.
The thyroid, the adrenals, now we're revving cellular energy.
Oh, it was night and day.
And they're like, really red meat was a part of my healing journey.
I was able to heal my colitis and go into full remission after about 5 months.
It took about 2 years, but my pain level was cut way down.
Red meat is one of the richest sources of carnitine.
Did research about meat and bioavailability of nutrients.
And carnitine supports our mitochondria.
Cognitive improvements.
A massive difference in how you feel.
Our muscle strength.
Lots of energy.
Supports our gut motility as well.
Your anxiety.
But I wasn't expecting my mental problems to go away, and it was the mental problems that just disappeared.
Not on any medications. I don't struggle with depression or anxiety.
Whole new quality of life.
Really is what our bodies were meant to thrive on.
As you can see, animal products can have profound health benefits, which has to make you wonder why vegan diets are still being so heavily promoted. As it turns out, there are many people invested in plant-based messaging, including animal rights and environmental activists, but some of the loudest voices are those who stand to profit, especially processed food and meat alternative companies.
I hope that young people understand that a lot of this anti-meat messaging is actually alternate meat industry that stands to gain a lot from making sure that people are afraid of eating meat.
You could talk about corporations who spotted the vegan potential to grow their markets, in particular from processing the food, and most vegan foods are being processed, and the profit is all in the processing.
According to a report from Bloomberg Intelligence, the plant-based market was worth $29.4 billion in 2020 and is projected to reach $162 billion by 2030.
There's money to be made in the plant-based revolution. As a way of addressing climate change, if you say, well, people should buy less, fly less, drive less, consume less, what you have is an economic contraction on your hands. You have a recipe for shrinkage of the world economy. If, on the other hand, you can advocate for switching from meat to these plant-based alternatives, you have the growth of that sector. You don't have any economic contraction.
While corporations are profiting off of this message, a recent analysis of the incredibly influential plant-based Eat Lancet diet revealed it is unaffordable for 1.5 billion people worldwide, not to mention nutritionally inadequate for many populations, as discussed in video 1. In conclusion, choosing what to eat is a deeply personal choice, and I respect and admire those who eat thoughtfully, even when their diet looks dramatically different from mine. My goal is not to tell you what to do, only to provide accurate information so you can make a truly informed decision.
Part of the problem, it's never just what you eat, it becomes who you are. Is then when the diet starts failing, which it will, and when you come across information that is counter to what you believe, you can't deal with it. Feels like it's an assault, on your very sense of who you are and your place in the universe.
Have intellectual honesty with yourself. Like, what is the purpose? Why do I believe this? Do I want to believe this, or is the evidence actually supporting this?
The truth is, our bodies have evolved to require the unique and essential nutrients from both plants and animal products, and nutrient deficiencies are already a public health burden, which is why I think an ideal long-term diet contains both. And though factory farming is a huge problem, there are many ranchers raising animals ethically, which we'll be discussing in a future video. If after all you've learned today, you're still considering being a vegan, please supplement with the nutrients often missing in vegan diets, monitor your nutrient status carefully, and consider this one final piece of advice.
If you still choose not to eat animal foods, I totally respect that. But please do support the inclusion of animals in our food system, because they provide ecosystem services and they provide health services for people who need it. And it might not be right for you, but it's right for the world.
I sincerely hope this video allows you to make educated dietary decisions to live a vibrant life you feel good about. Thank you for watching ReThink Meat and the truth about vegan diets.